Food, its utilization. All autotrophic organisms are said to have holophytic mode of nutrition, while all heterotrophic animals have holozoic mode of nutrition. Modes of nutrition. In green plants, there is no need for intake of food from external source because food is manufactured by the plant itself. The food material is then distributed to all the living cells of the plant through the vascular bundles, where it is utilized for the production of energy required to carry out the living process, as well as the growth of the plant. This mode of nutrition, where there is no need for food intake, or food digestion, or absorption, or assimilation, is called holophytic mode of nutrition. The green plant makes its own food, which is passed on to all the cells within the body of the plant from the green cells. The plant cells then utilize this self-made food for growth, development, reproduction, and many other processes. Since the food is being made within the body of the plant itself, there is no need for digestion. We cannot make our own food, neither can animals, so we depend on other organisms and plants that we consume as food. This type of nutrition is called holozoic nutrition. Nutrition is a complex process and involves various steps. As animals and humans consume food, there are various steps involved in obtaining nutrition from food. Steps involved in the nutrition are ingestion. This involves the intake of food in various forms. In humans, ingestion means eating. Digestion. This is generally common in animals and humans. It involves the breakdown of the food into simpler components by the action of biochemicals called enzymes. Absorption. This is also common in animals and humans. It relates with the absorption of digested food material. Assimilation. This process involves the use of absorbed food material by cells for carrying out life activities. Digestion. As animals and human beings depend on food from outside, the waste material after digestion and absorption has to be removed periodically from the body. The removal of waste or unwanted material after digestion and absorption of useful food matter is called digestion. Although steps of nutrition are same in all the organisms, but its process differs in unicellular and multicellular animals. Nutrition in amoeba. Amoeba, a unicellular organism, is a mass of cellular material called protoplasm. As the protoplasm flows in a particular direction, the amoeba appears to be projecting a foot forward in that direction. This false foot of the amoeba is called pseudopodium. When amoeba comes across a suitable food particle, it creates pseudopodia around it and encloses it from all sides. The temporary enclosure containing the food particle is called the food vacuole. This step in which the food particle is enclosed in a food vacuole corresponds to eating and is called ingestion. Within the food vacuole, the food particle is acted upon by biochemicals called enzymes, released from the protoplasm. These enzymes convert the food particle matter into simpler components that can be used by the amoeba. This process is called digestion. The digested material enters the amoebic protoplasm, where it is used to release energy and carry out the life activities. This is called assimilation. This movement of digested matter from the food vacuole to the protoplasm is termed as absorption. After absorption, the waste material along with excess of water slowly moves within the protoplasm, collecting all the waste matters. The food vacuole is now called contractical vacuole. The contractical vacuole empties its contents in the surrounding water, and this process is called ingestion. In this way, all the steps of holozoic mode of nutrition are fulfilled in the case of amoeba. Nutrition in multicellular organisms. In higher multicellular organisms, All these steps of Holozoic nutrition change according to the type of animal and its food, especially the mode of ingestion. In Paramecium, which is also a unicellular organism, the food is pushed into an opening called the oral groove by hair-like projections called cilia. In Hydra, which is a multicellular microscopic organism, the food is brought into the body cavity by projections called tentacles. In insects such as mosquito and butterfly, a long tubular structure called proboscis is used to suck blood and nectar respectively. The cockroach has hardened teeth-like structures that are used to crush the food before taking it in. Higher animals in humans have teeth for grinding the food material. Nutrition in humans. The Holozoic mode of nutrition is accomplished by a well-developed organ system called the digestive system. The human digestive system begins from the mouth and ends at the anus. Connecting the two ends is the digestive canal, also called the alimentary canal. This is supported by a number of organs along its passage, such as the salivary glands connected to the mouth, the liver and pancreas connected to the upper end of the small intestine. Structure of a tooth. Each tooth remains buried in the jawbone by its root, and the crown remains outside the gum. Incisors and canines have single root, while premolars and molars have two roots each. The crown is formed of dentine and has a layer of enamel outside. Enamel forms the shining part of the crown of each tooth. It is deposited on the surface of crown of the tooth. Enamel is the hardest substance in our body, even harder than bones. It is also chemically the most stable substance. Tongue. Buccal cavity or mouth contains a fleshy muscular tongue. It is attached to the floor of the buccal cavity. Our tongue has the taste buds which identify sweet, salt, bitter, and sour taste. So it helps us identify the different taste. The food is rolled with the help of the tongue and mixed with saliva from the 3 salivary glands located below the 2 ears and below the tongue. The saliva moistens the food and also digests starch with the help of an enzyme, ptyalin, contained in it. Here is an activity showing starch test. Take 2 beakers and put 100 ml of hot water in each beaker. Add half teaspoonful of starch powder in each of the beakers and stir well with a glass rod so that the powder dissolves in the water. Label the beakers as A and B. Take a mouthful of clean water and rinse by moving the water around your mouth for 2 minutes. Empty the contents of your mouth in beaker B and stir well. Leave the beakers for 5 minutes. Test both the solutions in beakers A and B for starch by using iodine solution. The solution in beaker A will turn blue-black in color, but the solution in beaker B remains brownish-black. This is because in beaker B, you have put water from your mouth that has your saliva, which contains the enzyme ptyalin. The ptyalin digests the starch and converts it into simple sugars. This is the reason why the solution does not test positive for starch. After being masticated and mixed well with saliva, the food is rolled into a bolus and pushed into the gullet by the tongue. The food bolus passes through a muscular tube called the food pipe or esophagus, through which it enters the stomach. The stomach is a muscular bag-like organ where the food is churned and mixed with digestive juice called gastric juice. The gastric juice contains 0.01% to 0.03% hydrochloric acid and a number of enzymes. Digestion in stomach. A healthy diet consists of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. All these components of the food are acted upon by the gastric juice and changed into simpler compounds by the action of biochemicals called enzymes. After a few hours, depending on the type of food, the paste-like semi-digested food is passed out of the stomach into the small intestine. Digestion in small intestine. The digestion of food is completed in the small intestine. The small intestine is an opening which is connected to two tubes, one coming from a gland called pancreas and the other from the largest gland, liver. It receives bile juice from the liver and pancreatic juice from the pancreas and also secretes several digestive juices of its own. Bile juices make the food alkaline and help in digestion of fat. Pancreatic juices help in the digestion of proteins and the later part of the 20 feet long small intestine is the area where the digested food is absorbed as it passes from the small intestine into the blood, from where it is circulated to all parts of the body and reaches all the cells of the body. This completes the absorption and assimilation steps of nutrition. In the cells, the food material is broken down for the release of energy by the process of respiration in the presence of oxygen. The remaining undigested food passes into the large intestine where excess of water is reabsorbed. Finally, the waste material is collected in the rectum and thrown out through the anus. This completes the last step of nutrition called digestion. It takes approximately 18 hours for food to pass through the alimentary canal, but as meals are consumed at regular intervals, the process of defecation also becomes a matter of periodic habit. Digestive system in ruminants. Animals such as cows, buffaloes, sheep, goats, bison are called ruminants because of the presence of a four-chambered stomach. The first and the largest part of the stomach that occupies 75% of the abdominal cavity is called rumen, and thus these animals are called ruminants. The ruminants have a very peculiar habit of chewing cud, which is a partially digested food. You may have seen cows or buffaloes sitting and chewing something without eating anything from outside. This process of re-chewing the partially digested food is called regurgitation. When ruminants stop feeding, the cud returns to the buccal cavity in small lumps and is chewed again. Plant food is rich in cellulose. In ruminants, cellulose is digested in a special sac present at the junction of small and large intestine, which is called cecum. The ruminants have a four-chambered compound stomach. The esophagus, or the food pipe, coming from the mouth, is connected to the first and largest chamber of the stomach, called rumen. The rumen extends into a narrow opening to get connected to the second, much smaller part, called reticulum. The reticulum turns up to get connected to a small, third, rounded chamber, called the amasum. The amasum, in turn, is connected to the fourth and last chamber, which is also the true stomach, and is called the abomasum. The grass and green plants or fodder eaten by the animal enters the rumen and passes on into the reticulum. During this time, the food is converted into soft pulp. At the time, the animal is relaxing or resting. The food pulp is brought back into the mouth and chewed well. The food, along with saliva, now becomes a paste which enters the third chamber, amasum, directly after regurgitation. Digestion begins when the food passes from the amasum, third chamber, to the abomasum, second chamber. Digestive juices are secreted into the abomasum, and the food, after digestion, passes into the small intestine. Finally, the food passes into the large intestine. The large intestine of the ruminants has a large extension called the vermiform appendix, which provides digestive juices to digest the cellulose, the hard material in the green fodder. Finally, the undigested food is excreted through the anus as feces. Absorption and assimilation of food. After digestion, the digested food has to be made available to each and every cell of the body for carrying out the normal life activities. The digested food from the intestine passes into the blood vessels through finger-like projections in the lining of the small intestine. These projections are called villi. The villi are lined from inside by a number of blood vessels, and digested food passes into the blood vessels by the process of diffusion. The blood is the mobile tissue that carries food and oxygen from the lungs for distribution to all parts of the body, from head to toe. The process of absorption relates to the movement of digested food from the intestine into the blood. The distribution of the food material from the blood to all the body parts is termed as assimilation. Once the food materials enter the cells of the body, they are broken down for the release of energy in the presence of oxygen, and this is called cellular respiration. Then the process of nutrition completes.